it's experiencing love. But if we dive deeper into that, it's just knowing, I think when we experience love, we know deep down that those parts of ourselves that we think are like too broken or unlovable, like we see them being loved and we see them as worthwhile because we're like seeing someone else show us that love. And then as we give love, I think there's healing, because maybe part of our brokenness is we feel like we can't love. We can't be loved, or we can't love well. So I've experienced, I think maybe that's more of my wound, is feeling like I can't love well because of my wounds. And so there's been a lot of healing in that as well. So I would say healing is those parts of yourselves that you don't want other people to see, or that you don't think are good, being seen and being affirmed in their goodness. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Samuel Paul Bryant. I'm here today to interview our life coach, Isabella Jean Marie Bryant. Once again, such a beautiful name for such a beautiful young lady. Hello, Isabella. How are you today?
Hi, Dad. I'm doing good.
Awesome. Hey, can we start by you telling us a little bit about what motivated you to become a life coach?
Yeah, I think you were there for a lot of that. But basically, my story is that kind of my childhood trauma, my experiences of sexual abuse, my experiences of being exposed to pornography at a young age, kind of led me down a certain path of desiring to work with women in the space of sexual wounds. So a long time ago, back in 2020, so about 5 years ago, I started a nonprofit called Restore Love.
Yes.
The goal was to provide resources and community for young women like me who have experienced childhood sexual abuse and unwanted sexual behaviors. And as I was kind of continuing on with that process, trying to figure that out, working through my own healing, you actually came to me at one point. I think we were at dinner with Mom, and expressed that you thought maybe it would be good for me to transition into life coaching.
Yes.
And work here at Witness. It was funny because a month prior, I probably had looked up coaching programs and coaching certifications because I was thinking about doing that myself. But I didn't know I was going to be here at Witness with you, so that was just God and the Holy Spirit kind of directing both of us. But I just think that God has given me certain gifts that really help me to just provide a certain kind of space and environment towards young women like me who have experienced these kinds of traumas. Yeah.
Praise God. So tell us a little bit about your background, meaning your training. What kind of training have you done to be prepared to provide the services that you provide?
Yeah, so I got my certification as a trauma and resiliency life coach from the Arizona Trauma Institute. So for a lot of people in the kind of trauma space, it would be like trauma-informed coaching would kind of be the title of that. So just a lot of background in how your body responds to trauma, your different nervous systems, self-regulation, fight, flight, fight, freeze, and fawn. I think I repeated one of those. But so those are, that was my first training that I did. It was a 6-month cohort where I would meet once a week with my other cohort people in an online forum. And we would do training together, and then weekly we would have videos we'd go through and trainings like that. And then this past year, I received training through Bria Hanan, who's actually a licensed therapist out in Phoenix, Arizona, who wrote Befriending Your Inner Child. Yes. And she does a integrative Catholic coaching training. So with IFS, we know it, internal family systems. It's kind of a version of parts work that we did. And so I did that training this year. So I guess I would label myself as like a integrative trauma-informed coach.
That use some parts work.
That uses some parts work, yeah. So I basically, and it's interesting, in the parts work in the training I did with Bria, she uses trauma-informed, not modalities, but like information with her clients as well, and that was in the training as well. So it's just how trauma affects your body and how to work through that, mixed with parts work and like befriending your inner child work.
Gotcha.
Is kind of what I would say that I do, yeah.
So your story is kind of the wounded healer, right? You wounded yourself, right, in certain ways, and you're taking that experience and how you've been healed, can we say that?
Yeah.
Yourself, and
Yeah.
you're presenting that to other people to help them in their healing process.
Yeah.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about what is healing. What have you experienced healing to be?
Oof. Yeah, that's a good question. I've been here through some of these interviews that we've done, and I've heard some answers to what is healing that have really inspired me. I think I really loved the answer that kind of just experiencing love is healing.
Yes.
But I actually think, yeah, so there's a lot of ways to experience love, which I
Yeah.
think is interesting. And through my work, through kind of being able to give love, I've actually experienced healing myself. Through my work, I volunteer with Life Teen at St. Tim's, so I work with teenagers. And I've experienced a lot of healing just kind of through witnessing them love.
Yeah.
Love God, love each other, just seeing teenagers kind of have this freedom in the way that they love, which I think has brought me back to kind of remembering my younger self and how I was
Yes.
able to do things differently. And that's kind of healed my heart in many ways. So I think it's experiencing love, but if we dive deeper into that, it's just knowing, I think when we experience love, we know deep down that those parts of ourselves that we think are like too broken or unlovable, like we
Yes.
see them being loved and we see them as worthwhile because we're like seeing someone else
Yeah.
show us that love. And then as we give love, I think there's healing because maybe part of our brokenness is we feel like we can't love.
Can't be loved.
Oh yeah, we can't be loved or we can't love well.
Yeah.
So I've experienced, I think maybe that's more of my wound is feeling like I can't love well because of my wounds.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of healing in that as well. So I would say healing is those parts of yourselves that you don't want other people to see or that you
Yes.
don't think are good being seen and being affirmed in their
Awesome.
goodness. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. You know, in my experience, I know working with couples and individuals, a big part of my job is getting people just to see the truth.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of times I see that healing is helping someone embrace the truth about themselves, that they are lovable, that they are creating the image and likeness of God, that they can give that love to others.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's a beautiful aspect of what God teaches us. What role does faith play in your own healing and in your work?
Yeah. Well, I think faith was a crucial part of my healing. I don't really think there would be healing in almost any way without it. We grew up Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up attending Mass every Sunday. And I think maybe, I wouldn't call us like cafeteria Catholic or necessarily even cradle Catholic. I think we were pretty passionately Catholic. You led us, I think, our family in that way very well. But still, there's a time when children who grow up Catholic have to kind of choose it for themselves.
Yes.
And I was recently asked on an interview that I did, what my like reversion story was. But I was just thinking back as I'm doing Life Teen now. I was in Life Teen at St. Tim's in high school, and I chose to do that. No one told me I should or like forced me into it. My friends were there. I'm very social. I'm very sanguine. So I was like, okay, my friends are there. I'll go.
Yes.
But also, I just remember experiencing retreats and adoration in a different way than I had before. And because of my wounds, because of my trauma, I kind of entered into those things a little differently maybe than some people around me, where I was really asking for healing and I was really asking for forgiveness. And I was really needing it because I wasn't doing very well in high
Yes.
school. I was definitely struggling with depression and self-harm and different things like that. So I was kind of asking, I was really needing God to
Absolutely.
do something for me.
Needed God to show up for you.
Right, and he did. And he really did. He's shown up for me throughout my whole life through friends, family, affirming me just with his presence and adoration and prayer. So all of those things I felt are so necessary because I wouldn't really know who I was without knowing that there was this Father who loved me,
Yeah.
in that way and would show up for me.
Yes.
So I think I was affirmed, of his presence throughout my life, even though there were many ups and downs. And so in my work with my clients, a big part of identity work, I think, is really based in I am a beloved daughter of God who delights in me, who cherishes me, who treasures me, and who does show up.
Yes.
He is who he says he is, and I can trust him, and he tells me who I am. And and it's those times where I don't know who I am or what I'm doing that I feel very lost and that I might make more poor decisions. So when we do the identity work, it is very much based in the truth that the clients, because I only work with women clients,
Gotcha.
that they are beloved daughters of God. So he really shows up in a lot of my work. We've talked about this. I mainly work with Christian and Catholic clients. I'd be open to working with whoever, of course, but when I do that work, yeah, our Lord and Father is very much involved in that process
Awesome.
of identity. Yeah.
Yeah, when I first started counseling, I worked for an organization that did sex and porn addiction
Mm.
work, and they had a lot of groups and stuff, but it was all for men,
Yes.
right? It seems like now there's a movement in the Catholic world to understand that I think a third of
Mm-hmm.
people addicted to porn are women
Yeah.
or girls,
Mm-hmm.
and there seems to be a movement to where there's more help for women now, whereas
Yeah.
in the past there wasn't.
Yeah. That's very true.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel when I started Restore Love back in 2020, I felt like there were very few options, even in the Catholic space. That's 5 years ago. It's not that long ago.
Yes.
And as time has gone, I've definitely seen many more options, many more women go on podcasts and share things about their story. When I first started sharing about my story, I had a lot of girls, like hundreds of girls, reach out to me, sharing their story of sexual abuse and pornography use. And a lot of those actually went hand in hand, which I
Yes.
felt like maybe people didn't really understand at the time, just because they're both very taboo topics.
Yes.
Yeah. So I do think there are definitely growing resources. I don't know if there's a lot of people, like coaches, like female coaches I found who do what I do, but there's ministries like Magdala Ministries that does like online support for women struggling with unwanted sexual behaviors. There's a few other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, the awareness is growing as we just see, yeah, it's about 30% of women have viewed pornography, and then the ages of teenage girls. I think, I might get this number wrong, but we're looking upwards of like 40% of teenagers
Yeah.
before the age of 18 have watched pornography as well, teenage girls.
Yes.
And then there's a whole nother realm of everything going on online with sexting and all those different things that I have clients who are experiencing those things, teenage clients. So there's a big world of sexual wounds and
Yes.
unwanted sexual behaviors. It doesn't just have to be pornography, masturbation, and it doesn't just have to be like a very narrow idea of what childhood sexual abuse is or sexual abuse is. So, yeah, there's just a wide range of traumas in that space.
Yeah.
And I think we are opening up a greater space for women who struggle with unwanted sexual behaviors, which is really huge. Yeah.
So I would imagine in the conservative Catholic world, let's say, you have a young girl struggling with porn addiction, masturbation. It may be even more difficult for her to open up to someone because they may feel it's so taboo. Do you run into that at all?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think the fear is, and I have some clients that are in high school, very Catholic schools, who sit around and think none of the girls in their school, in their class, are experiencing anything like they are. So, and that was what I was experiencing in high school as well. I felt very isolated and very dirty, and there's just a lot of shame that is involved just because no one ever gave words to my experience. And yeah, there was not a woman you could look up to and be like, oh, this lady talks about this thing. Wow, women do struggle with this. So that's still pretty common because I don't think there are many women talking about this, or at least not on very big platforms. So yeah, they definitely feel like there's no one to talk to and that there's a lot of shame, and it's just better to keep it a secret. Because they don't think anyone will receive them very well in that space. But I have just learned, I have one client in particular that I'm thinking of who's so wonderful. And we've seen so much growth, and she's even recently had a friend open up to her about her struggles,
Yeah.
which is just so cool. She, at her school, in her class, tells her that she's struggling with a similar thing,
Wow.
and she immediately emailed me, told me about it.
That's awesome.
And yeah, then that just opens up more space for you, and secrets are poisonous. And so that's the crazy thing with unwanted sexual behaviors, and especially with young women, is that there's no show, that's just talking about young girls, finding their parents' stash of pornography or something like that. That's all boys. They're looking at the posters, they're doing the weird things, they're making the jokes, and there's just never been space to feel like, oh, I can share about this, and that's wrong in its own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all a girl in a Catholic conservative space needs is just like one other person to let them know that they struggle with the same things. That's what I found in my work has been really helpful. It's just that when my clients come to me, even if it's a different kind of unwanted sexual behavior that I experienced or a different kind of sexual wound, there's that baseline familiarity of, we've experienced something very taboo that feels very shameful and secret, but I'm going to share with you my experiences and how I felt about it, and open up space for you to share whatever you want with me. Yeah.
Praise God. That's beautiful. Can you give witness to any particular event that you've had in your own relationship with God that was inspiring, was transformative?
That's a good question. I feel like I've had a few. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? The thing that comes back to me, this was maybe, a year and a half ago. I had been going through a hard time, a kind of a breakup, I guess you would call it. Yeah, and I had fallen back into something that I thought I was kind of away from.
Yeah.
And I had gone to confession, and I was sitting in the church afterwards, and I just had this moment, a moment of affirmation, consolation with God in a church out here in Tempe, Resurrection. And I just had a moment where I felt like I could see myself giving God my heart.
That's beautiful.
And yeah, and then I just knew he was going to keep it safe. And that also, in me giving him my heart, I was kind of saying I'm never leaving you. You have my heart, and you have the thing that keeps me alive.
Yes.
And so I can't leave you. I will always come back here, even if this happens again. Even if I fall back, I have to come back to confession for a similar reason. No matter whatever the sin is, whatever happens, whatever tragedy strikes my life, you have it now. You have it. I'm giving it to you, and I always need to come back to you for life, and for protection and safety. So that just comes back to me a lot where, in moments it's helpful. And because I still experience moments of depression, anxiety, not really knowing what to do, feeling lost in who I am, or ooh, am I ever going to be that person I thought I was going to be? All of those things still happen.
Was I ever going to be the person I thought I was going to be?
Yeah.
Well, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I talk with my therapist about this quite a bit. I think I'm a dreamer.
Yes.
Big ideas about what I want to do with my life and the kind of person that I want to be. Yeah, but I'm also sanguine and very much move on from one thing to the next, very much motivated by fun and pleasure, which I am very self-aware of, but that doesn't really, just because you're self-aware of something doesn't mean it goes away.
Exactly.
That's something I had to learn at 20.
I just turned 60. I'm still learning.
Yes. But yeah, I think I have a lot of expectations for myself. No one's ever really put them on me. I don't think you or Mom was very you have to be this and do this. I didn't feel a lot of pressure, in that way. But it's just that, I have big dreams, and I think I see myself as something, or maybe what it is God has called me to something, and I haven't really fully answered the call yet, and I'm acutely aware of it.
Yeah.
I'm not as like virtuous as I desire to be. All of those things, right? Which I think will last forever. So I have to kind of go back and think about, okay, what are realistic expectations for myself, and not be so like it's this big thing, but that I just want to be a good person and listen to God and follow His will.
Absolutely.
For my life. But yeah, I think a lot of us have big dreams and expectations for ourselves. Or if you've just kind of heard throughout your life that you are this thing, that you are something. I think we're always so adamant about our family being a very, beautiful family, very inspiring family. And I've heard a lot of things about myself, how I speak to people, just some things I've done working at live action, just different things where it's like, I think I felt that people thought I was really going to kind of be something or do something, and I felt that way as well. And not to say that I'm not doing that, but those big expectations, I'm having a hard time letting them go.
Totally understand.
And I think gratitude is a big part of that. If I really just think about my life, my therapist tells me all the time. She's like, well, like, what are the good things? Like, what are the good things you've done? Like, what are the accomplishments that you have made? Because I have a hard time noticing those.
Yeah.
Because I'm overpowered by kind of all the negative thoughts about myself. So if I sat back and just thought about, my work here, the story I just told you about one of my clients,
Absolutely.
And just praise the Lord for, the good work He's doing through me, that I at least was able to say yes, which He gave me the grace to do.
Exactly.
But that's what I would say about those big expectations. I don't think they're going to leave me for a long time, but I am aware of them.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I often think of Saint Teresa of Avila and Saint Therese of Lisieux, two very different saints, but two very great saints.
Yes.
I don't know how many people knew Therese of Lisieux when she died at 24. Maybe 100.
Right.
And now she's known by so many people.
Yeah.
And she would say, we're not all the same size glass. She would describe Teresa of Avila as having this big glass, and God would just fill that big glass to overflowing. But her cup, she had a cup, and God just filled her little cup up, and it was overflowing with God's grace.
Right.
So I think it's for God to determine who we are.
Yeah.
Because I often have the same battle that you have.
Yeah.
And the Lord has to calm me down. Quiet down, young man.
Yeah.
And I'll be the judge of you. You shall stop judging now.
He doesn't sound like that to me in my head.
Let's imagine, Isabella, you could take a road trip anywhere you want in the country. Who would you take with you on that road trip?
Yeah. I was thinking about this morning in the shower. I was like, ooh, that's a hard question. I don't think there's like any famous people I'm necessarily super tied to. There are definitely saints, Saint Joan of Arc that I thought about, but it kind of hit me through the parts work that I've done and just like befriending your inner child. That could be really cool to be in a car with like my 8-year-old self, my 15-year-old self, and like my 20-year-old self.
Wow.
That's a great answer. And I was thinking it would be so interesting.
Absolutely.
I think when you experience complex trauma, a big thing that's really hard is your memory.
Yes.
I have a good friend of mine, Caitlin, shout out, who we talk about just the things we don't remember in high school, like all the time. And we were experiencing things together in Life Teen together.
Yes.
We are in Life Teen now, and we'll go to different retreats, and we'll be like, oh, we were here, but we don't. We don't remember the retreat. We don't really remember what it's like. And when you're kind of surviving, when you're just really surviving, it's hard to be present and to keep things, keep your memories. So I just thought that part of like really getting some memories and remembering things would be really interesting. But even more than that, I think each and every one of those versions of myself would be very healing. Yes. For me to kind of hear what they're going through. I thought it was just really cool to think about what it would be like to mother them, to be there for each of those ages, kind of tell them it's going to be okay. And then have each and every one of them kind of remind me of like who I was and how I used to be.
Yes.
The kind of innocence, or just like the more alive I was, or the more I was able to kind of maybe feel my emotions more rawly. As I'm working through that, I'm working through being able to do that and getting back to that now at 25. Though over my 20s, I think I was hardened in many different ways. But yeah, I thought that it would be an extremely healing car ride. Probably boost my healing advance my healing a couple of years. But yeah, just to see what each and every one of those versions of myself at those ages was going through and experiencing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That sounds like an exercise.
Yes, that you could do
with your clients.
Right.
Right? I mean, what a beautiful idea, to get people to get back into contact with their younger selves.
Right.
And hopefully, bring those younger parts into the present.
Right.
Right? So those traumatized parts don't stay in the past.
Exactly. Right. And I do work like that through Bria's work that I've done, healing, the Fully Alive program and healing your inner child. But the car ride would be a very interesting one.
Yeah,
for
with
sure.
those 3 parts in the same
with those
car.
So kind of those 3, like big ages that you remember stuff going on at. Yeah. Very interesting.
And then the present, you driving the car.
Right. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Stop fighting 8-year-old and 16-year-old self.
Stop it. She can sit next to you. She doesn't have the cooties.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Good. So as we wrap up today, is there any kind of final remarks you would like to relate to people that might be watching this little podcast?
Yeah, I just want to say, mainly just for any girl who's out there who's experienced any form of sexual wounding, really and truly, you are not alone. I think God has a huge desire to enter into that space. I think there's a special place in his heart for anyone who's experienced sexual wounds, but especially just his daughters who have experienced sexual wounding and the loneliness and the isolation and the guilt and the shame that they feel. And he so desires to let you in. Sometimes you just need a little help, and sometimes it's really helpful to have an outside perspective, a safe space to go to. If there's anything you might need, I don't know, I could give out my email, but you could just look at Witness to Love, fcs.com. I'm up there. You can reach out to our office. You can shoot me an email, whether you're ready to come in or not. There's just a space for you, and there's healing for you. So that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Isabella Jean Marie Bryant. God bless you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.